Hi everyone, my name is Jenny and I'm back today to do another video. Today I'm going to be chatting through the books that I hope to read in April, and I've tried to limit myself quite a bit to the books that I'm putting specifically on this TBR. While there are other books that I am interested in getting to this month, I didn't want to put them on this TBR because I am kind of more interested in mood reading or working on kind of other projects that suit my fancy throughout the month, as opposed to trying to get to a much larger TBR, which is what I've been doing for the past couple of months. So I only have a few books. I mean, it's still a large number relatively speaking, but I think it's like 6 or 7 books to talk about. So let's just get right into things. So starting as always with the arcs that I have for the month. I have 4 arcs that I am hoping to get to. The first of which I did mention in my March TBR and haven't been able to get to it, so it's going to roll over into April, and that's The 5 Wounds by Kristen Valdezquade. This is a literary fiction novel that's following a New Mexican family over the course of a year after a 15-year-old within the family shows up pregnant at the house, and so the family is kind of rekindling some, I think, frayed family relationships, and also I think discussing the baby and how that's going to change the family dynamic. So I'm super excited about this one. We'll hopefully be listening to it on audio. That one is coming out on March 30th, so I will be reading it after its publication date. Then on April 13th, I have a nonfiction book that I actually will be reading in a vlog along with another book that I'll mention in a minute. So look out for that vlog around the middle of the month, I would anticipate. So the first book I'll be reading is Low Country, a Southern Memoir by Nicole. This is coming out from Catapult on April 13th. And I actually talked about this one as well as all the arcs that I will mention in this video in my anticipated releases video, which I'll put a link to on the cards above as well as in the description box below. But Low Country is a memoir about Nicole Jones's time growing up in the Low Country region of South Carolina, and I believe her family's relationship with wealth over the course of her childhood. So super excited about this one. We'll be talking about my thoughts in that vlog. And then the other book I'll be reading for that vlog is Overheated: How Capitalism Broke the Planet and How We Fight Back by Kate Aronoff. This is coming out from Bold Type Books on April 20th. Again, is a nonfiction book about capitalism and its relationship to climate change, and I believe some discussion of like neoliberal politics. So I'm excited to read this one, and again, we'll be reading that in that vlog. Then finally, the last arc that I'm hoping to get to is Sorrowland by River Solomon. This is coming out from MCD, which is an imprint of FSG, on May 4th. I've read Solomon's 2 previous works and enjoyed both of them, particularly for their thematic explorations, but I found the plots to be a little lacking. And as I mentioned in my anticipated releases video, I don't really understand what this book is about from the plot synopsis, so I'm not going to give you a great synopsis here, but I am looking forward to reading it, and we'll be talking about it, I assume, in my April wrap-up, so I can give you more details about that book then. Then I also have 2 buddy reads planned for the month, the first of which is with Laurel Ann from Insert Book Pun Here, I'll put a link to down in the description box below. She and I will be reading Bunny by Mona Awad together at some point in April, and I'm super excited about this one. This one is quite buzzy here on BookTube and is a literary fiction / horror maybe novel that's about a young woman who joins a very elite MFA program, and I believe all the other people in the program call each other Bunny, and weird stuff happens, and I've just heard that this really kind of goes off the wall into like total nonsense territory from one of my best friends in real life who has read this. So I'm very intrigued about this. I feel like it'll be a good buddy read book. I also feel like every time I hear about it, someone absolutely loves it or just totally despises it, so I'm very curious how I will fall. I'm not the biggest horror reader. I don't particularly like being scared, but this doesn't sound like jump scary horror, which is what I really don't like the kind of Stephen King vibe. It just kind of sounds more like a secret history, like weird stuff is happening, or Catherine House, which I guess also could be classified as horror, both of which I really enjoyed. So I have high hopes for this one, but we'll see how it goes. And then the other buddy read that I'll be doing is with Courtney, who I buddy read a book with this past month in March, and I really enjoyed that experience. So we're excited to be buddy reading Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczyk, maybe? I don't know how you say her last name, I'm very sorry. We are both reading this for the Reading Woman prompt of a book by an author from Eastern Europe, as Tokarczyk is from Poland. So we are excited about this one. This is a literary mystery about a woman who lives in a very rural part of Poland, and people in her rural community start turning up dead. Unfortunately, and I don't think I've told you this, Courtney, but my mom read this and she had her book club here at our house. It was like the last book club of hers that met before the pandemic, and they were talking about the book. So I do actually know the plot twist of this, but I feel like since it's a more literary novel that I think knowing what's happening is not necessarily going to like spoil the book for me. So excited about this one as well. I've heard pretty good things about this one on BookTube, and excited to be accomplishing a Reading Women prompt as well. And then moving into my Reading Women prompts, I do have 2 that I picked last month in my March TBR, which I'll put a link to up in the cards above as well as in the description box below. But the 2 prompts that I picked randomly out of my prompt jar, which we'll get to in a minute, were a book by a neurodivergent author. So for that I chose Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. Talia Hibbert, I believe, is on the autism spectrum, and this is a romance novel that follows the first in the series, which was Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which I read now like a year and a half ago and thought was okay, but I've heard nothing but absolutely amazing things about this one, so I'm super excited about it. I believe it's a kind of fake dating, friends to lovers trope about our 2 main characters, Danny Brown and her man Zafir, who I've also heard very good things about. Apparently he's very much a like cinnamon roll teddy bear type of male lead for a romance, so super excited about this one. And also this was a gift from my sister, which I talked about in my birthday book haul, which I'll put a link to up in the cards above, so excited to be getting to this one sooner rather than later. And then the other prompt that I picked last month is a book about incarceration, and so for that I'm going to be reading Sing and Buried Sing by Jasmine Ward. This is another literary fiction novel, and this is about a young boy who is driving with his black mother to go pick up his white father from a prison. I guess he's being released from prison, and I think there's a lot of discussion here about families as well as about Mississippi and its history, as this book takes place in Mississippi, and that's also where Jasmine Ward is from. So excited about this one, and it's also not terribly long as with all the rest of these books, so I am hoping that that means that I'll be able to have a fair amount of kind of mood reading, free reading time throughout the month. So now, as always, I'm going to pick my next prompts for next month for the Reading Women Challenge, and actually I've been doing fairly well with reading both the prompts that I pick for myself as well as kind of some of the additional prompts that are a bit easier for me to get to naturally in my reading. So I've actually completed 8 of the prompts already. However, I'm hoping to complete the vast majority of them, ideally like in the 18 to 20 range, by the end of August, because I will be going to grad school in the fall for the last quarter of the year, and I don't want to kind of tie up my kind of independent for fun reading too much with these like obligation books. Not that I have to complete the Reading Women Challenge or anything like that, but I am hoping to complete as many of the prompts as possible in this kind of first half of the year, as opposed to leaving some of them for the back half of the year like I did last year and I wasn't able to actually finish the challenge. So I'm actually going to start picking 3 of the prompts each month to complete, which is kind of what I've been doing naturally. As you saw this month, I have 3 books planned to complete, so I don't think it'll be too much of a challenge. Plus I just enjoy picking the prompts, so it's fun to pick an extra one. So starting with the first prompt, and also some of the prompts that I have read books for like independently are still in here, so if any of those ones come up, I'm just going to take them out and pick a new one. So starting with the first one, we have About a Woman in Politics. I'm pretty sure I was going to read one of Stacey Abrams' nonfiction books, but I also could read Stacey Abrams' new political thriller that's coming out in May. Oh, that's a good idea. I will do that. I will treat myself to that book and read that next month, which I was kind of planning on doing anyway. And then the next prompt will be About the Natural World. This one, because Earth Day is in April, I might get to, actually I'm reading Overheated, which is about the natural world this month anyway, so I likely will get to that prompt anyway this month, but I'll include it as a May book just in case I don't. Or I could just read a book about the natural world anyway in May, because that is a subject that interests me. And also Springathon will be in May. Wow, so many options really. And then the last one that I'll pick is a YA novel by a Latinx author. Okay, great. So that one, I was going to read something from the library. I had a few options planned out, so I will be reading that from the library. Great, great, great. Okay, so those are my 3 Reading Women prompts for the month of May. So you'll be hearing me talk about what books I plan to read specifically in my May TBR, and then obviously what I thought about them in my May wrap-up. But then we also have to pick 2 prompts from my pre-2020 TBR, which is another thing that I like to do during my TBR videos. I've not been the best at reading those books. In fact, in March, I didn't read either of the ones I picked last month. So we'll see how this goes. I don't have as many books on my TBR this month. I am hoping I can get to these two and potentially play some catch up with the ones that I have picked previously, but we'll just see what comes up because I have some long books on here. Okay, the first one is The Underground Railroad, which I am the last person on planet Earth to read, so I'll go get that in a minute and tell you about it. And then the other one that I will be reading this month is this one, which is Triumph of the City. Okay, so that's a nonfiction book. Let me go get those books and I will tell you about them. Okay, I actually can't find Triumph of the City right now. I know my dad was interested in reading it and he might have put it in a weird place, or I might have put it in a weird place, who's to say. But this is a nonfiction book about urban planning and economics, and I believe the kind of main thesis of the argument is that urban centers are like good for the economy and are kind of better places to live. The subtitle of this book is How Our Greatest Invention Makes Us Richer, Smarter, Greener, Healthier, and Happier. So I definitely think it's kind of just a love letter to cities, a promotion of cities as good places to live. It is a little dated. It came out in 2011. However, I still think it'll be fun to read. I might read this as a kind of celebration as I finalize where I'm going to graduate school, which I will definitely be talking about in a coming vlog at some point this month. But yeah, excited about this one. Have been meaning to read it for a while. Both of these books are actually books that are perhaps the oldest two books on my TBR, aside from like a couple books that I mostly have as kind of collection books, unless they're like books that I'm super eager to get to slash really on my TBR. And then the other one is Colson Whitehead's The Underground Railroad, which I have been meaning to read for literal years. I did actually read a fair amount of this when I was on a road trip in 2019, and I'd already had this book on my TBR for a long time before that, so that can just show you how long this book has been on my TBR. I mean, I have the hardcover edition of it, and this book came out back in 2016, so like I've had this book sitting on my shelves for a very long time. But in case you're unfamiliar with this book, although I do think every person probably on BookTube and perhaps on the planet has read The Underground Railroad, this is a literary historical fiction novel about an enslaved woman living in Georgia who escapes on the Underground Railroad to freedom in the North. And in this book, the Underground Railroad is reimagined as a literal railroad. And I believe there's a lot of discussion about enslavement and intergenerational trauma and all the things associated with these kind of neo slave narratives. So excited to finally get to this one, and definitely will be reading it because it will be embarrassing if I literally have this on my TBR and I don't read it. So I will be getting to this one this month, I promise. And so those are the books that I'm hoping to get to in the month of April. Do let me know down in the comment section below any of your thoughts on any of these books or books that you are also excited to get to this month. If you're new to my channel, I'd love to have you stick around and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time.